fine good morning to all of you out there in YouTube land. My name is Scott Ford, and I'll be your host, one of your hosts today, here for the Rally4Vets 2023. It's going to be a very exciting day. As you can probably see from the pictures on your screen, we're getting ourselves all set here for one of the most interesting races that gets run in the course of a season. This Rally4Vets is, of course, brought to you by the Disabled Veterans Empowerment Network and is designed to both benefit veterans who are struggling with issues including suicide, which we would very much appreciate your help for financially as well as enjoying the broadcast, but also it is the only race that I'm aware of that's actually run by vets for vets. Today's drivers will all generally be veterans or loved ones of veterans who have supported them over the years. So in this opportunity, we'll have a chance to see some really high quality rally racing. Now, rally racing is different than NASCAR racing. For those of you unfamiliar with rally racing, it's you against the clock, though we'll have over 70 competitors today, and in just a moment we'll give you a chance to look at who those are. Each one of them will be competing only against the clock. We're going to go to the rules section in a minute, but I wanted to give everybody an opportunity to at least know that the broadcast is here. We are here with the Disabled Veterans Empowerment Network, sponsored by Navy Federal Credit Union and another fine group of sponsors that we'll get to in just a minute. I just wanted to take a second to come on the air and let you know, welcome to the Rally4Vets show. I can see that our sponsors are running now. Awesome Joe, certainly an exciting opportunity for everyone to get involved. You can see in the camera in your lower right-hand part of your screen that this is where we've got a parade of cars. It's not just a parade so much, it's a car show. And this is where a lot of the folks that are not our drivers, but are actually interested in the racing, can come and look at the cars, talk to the drivers, look at some of those that are folks on display, ask about how the veterans are doing and what they can do to help, as well as sign up for other resources that might be available. The Disabled Veterans Empowerment Network is one of the more active charities in making sure that issues of all types are addressed for our veterans. After all, they gave all of their service for you. Why don't you give a little bit back to support them? And that's kind of the taste and the flavor for this morning. I'm Scott Ford. I will be back with my co-host, Robbie, here in just a few minutes while we get everything set up to enjoy the coverage for Rally4Vets 2023. Thank you very much. We'll see you in a couple. And welcome back, race fans. As you know, I'm Scott D. Ford, and I'm certainly happy to be back here with you to commence the official part of our broadcast. The racers are just finishing up their safety briefing at this time, and we'll be having an opportunity to explain to you what the action of the day could look like. Now, I know I'm sitting here in this one chair, and over here we've got the empty chair. We've got this empty chair for my friend Robbie, who happens to be a bit more of a motorsports expert than I am. I'm a good broadcaster, but by golly, I just don't know the ins and outs of cars quite like Robbie does. So he's just down there with the safety briefing right now so that he can give you the flavor and the feel. I believe he's even trying to arrange the opportunity to drive once on the track, so we'll be bringing you any kind of in-track footage that we can throughout the course of the day. Now that, of course, leads me to the responsibility of introducing my invisible partner here, Trey, who's behind all the monitors in the booth. Say hi, Trey. Yep, you can't see it, but he waved at every single one here. Now, we are operating here at the beautiful Summit Point Raceway in Summit Point, West Virginia. Now, this is a live racing situation. We do have a fairly quiet area roped off for ourselves, but if you hear the occasional door slam or somebody come through very excited and laughing, please understand it's only because there's such a good time being had out here at the raceway. Summit Point Raceway in Summit Point, West Virginia is probably one of the only race places that we could hold an event such as this. And this, as I explained in our opening, is an interesting race in and of itself, in that it's a race specifically for veterans. Now, of course, the Disabled Veterans Empowerment Network, on the network behind me, who is the sponsor of our program, and we'll come to our sponsors in a second. But what makes this race more unique than others is, one, it's a rally race, not a traditional side-by-side or street race where you've got all your entrants competing against each other. What's happening here is a rally. And in a rally, you'll have the opportunity, each individual driver, to compete against themselves, against the clock. So that will really prove challenging as we have a number of different drivers, both experienced and novice. But the other cool thing about this race is that it's a race for veterans, run by veterans and their families and loved ones. We have a number of folks who've been supporting veterans and families throughout their postings, their tours, their careers, and we're so happy that they've been able to be with us here today. But let's take a moment and remember that this is primarily a race that's going to give you an opportunity at home to get involved in the charitable side of what we do here at the Disabled Veterans Empowerment Network. What we do is we try to help veterans with all kinds of issues. Our primary focus, as it has been for a couple of years, is trying to prevent suicide amongst veterans. I don't know if you know, but it's probably one of the worst statistical categories. The most recent data that I saw had 1 in 20 veterans ending their lives post-service in suicide. That's a figure that cannot be maintained. We must do what we can to stop that. And that's what we're here for today. Now, we'll have you an opportunity to give. And let me give you an example of what that might look like. You'll see that there's a number of opportunities here. Would you bring up our donation screen, please, Trey? Yep. Wow, let's take a look at some of our fine sponsors here in just a moment. The important thing is to remember that any contribution that you make is the thing that makes the difference. Now, if you're one of those that likes to do it technically, if you're not like me, not 185 years old, and you are able to scan, that's probably the quickest and most direct way to do it. Just hit your little scanner on that code on the television or on your screen, and you'll be able to go. You can also make a donation at www.rally4vets.com, or of course send it to the address on your screen. There's other information out there. I cannot emphasize enough how much every dollar counts, every dime counts. After all, these veterans have served us, giving everything they had during their time of service, and let's be honest, some gave all. Won't you at least give some? Now that commercial pitch being done, that also gives me an opportunity to talk about our fine sponsors who have been so generous, and I cannot tell you how generous they've been in supporting this program. Of course, we've got Navy Federal Credit Union. You don't have to just be Navy personnel. Awesome Joe, Radio Tire, Racekeepers, Reaction USA, governments who are really involved in racing. Of course, the Disabled folks at OG Racing. Now, our sponsors have done what they can do. Our drivers now have to do what they can do so that I have something to talk about. But Scott, I hear you asking through the television, what is it that we're going to do? Well, let's take a look at today's track, for example. And Trey will bring that up. We're running the Shenandoah track, for those of you that are familiar with the Summit Point Raceway, which is a great facility featuring at least 3 different tracks and a number of different driving experiences. And in this case, the Shenandoah track has a couple of really interesting features. You'll note as the bottom of your screen, the little red area there, that's pit row. But immediately coming off pit row, if you're running in the anti-clockwise direction, you have this hard right turn and then another hard left, and then you're into a short straightaway, a full 180-degree turn, and then a long straightaway. I know I'm going backwards, but the reason I'm doing that is because there is a section of the track just after the long straightaway. In fact, you'll be able to see it right from our broadcast facility. If you're looking in your cameras and looking at your screens right now, it's to the immediate right of my broadcast screen. And that's where we have a little dip in the track. Now, we noticed this last year. And if you're a familiar and experienced driver, this is not one of those things that's going to give you any kind of trouble at all. However, it can surprise the novice driver. So this is where we expect if there's going to be any kind of spin outs or out of control action, hopefully, goodness, we don't want anybody hurt, but that's where it's going to occur. So they'll run the course twice, once in the morning, once in the afternoon. Each time they'll be running 6 to 8 laps. Now they're running them clockwise in the morning now, and then anti-clockwise in the afternoon. And then, of course, amongst those 6 to 8 laps that they do, their very best time for that morning or afternoon session is one of the components, and the other one from the other afternoon or morning session, best time, and they combine the two. That's how you count the score. And then in the end, each class of driver, experienced or novice, and of course a number of other classes will give us a total of 12 classes to compete in with 2 winners in each, or 24 total recipients. It's gonna be a heck of a day. Let's take a look at the rules. And the rules for the race are kind of what you might expect. I mean, the general race rules are already explained to you in the most ways, which are, of course, that they'll be running 6 to 8 laps clockwise in the morning and anti-clockwise in the afternoon. Now, the individual class winners are the fastest time by their class, experienced or novice, also included. There are 12 total classes, 24 total winners. Now, what we like to do at this point is when they win, they're top dog, because after all, they've earned the privilege by their time on the track and their time serving you. So those very briefly are the rules. If we can come back to our cover, I'll give you an explanation of what the actual thing looks like. Now, it's early in the morning, so you'll forgive me if I grab myself a sip of coffee. Looking at your camera, looking at your television screen, you'll notice to the immediate right above the word vets, that's what we call camera 1. That's focusing on what will be one of the recovery points. It's also where that dippity-doo is. That's why we've trained our biggest camera on it. So if there's going to be any action, you should be able to see it all. The bottom left of your screen, directly beneath me, is a quick look at what's going on at pit road. Now that's going to fill up pretty quickly. As I say, the drivers are finishing their safety instructions at this point. So each one of them is still out of their cars and not yet with their helmets or restraints on. The middle of the bottom is what we call camera 3, and you're taking a look at the takeoff point and first hard right turn. And when I say hard right turn, it's at least 100 degrees. So as they're getting a good start off, I'm sure the temptation for all the drivers is going to be to just go, go, go. But then they have to make that very hard right turn as they're coming out of pit row or coming back into it. So it can affect times on both ends of the track. And then third and finally, you'll notice in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, if you hear the public address system, please understand, once again, we're working at a live raceway and happy to be here. Bottom right of your screen is what we call our sights and sounds camera. Each of the cars parked there is one of the competitors, also some of their families. They'll be doing a car show during the course of the day. We'll also have other things that, as the course of the day goes on, when they open up the skid circle, we'll give you some coverage of that, because it's going to be a very fun day full of racing. I know one of the other things that we'll have the opportunity to do is interview a number of the folks that are both involved with the race here at Rally4Vets, as well as the folks who work at Summit Point Raceway, and I'm hoping we can get a couple of the drivers.
And I have been assured, though I'm almost a little hesitant to promise this, that we might have the opportunity. Yes, there's our very first drone footage being delivered to Trey behind the camera. Thank you, Paul Behrens, operating the drone today. So you now know the long and the short of pretty much your entire broadcast crew here. Now, we can't do a live feed from the drone, primarily because it's just too far away and going too fast. But we will have the opportunity to bring you that drone footage shortly, on a time-delayed fashion. So if there's anything really fun going on, we're pretty sure we're going to be able to give you the clue in the camera. This is Rally4Vets 2023. I'm Scott D. Ford, and we're just waiting for the start of the racing to begin. It looks like the timers have come out now, and we are beginning to get some activity down on pit road. I can hear the activity already building below me. The drivers are very excited. If you have a service member in your family, you might want to give them the opportunity to tune in today. If you have anybody in your family who's interested in motorsports, please go ahead and share the address off YouTube so that they'll be able to follow the race. Now, one of the things that you could expect is that this is going to be an all-day event. I'm going to be with you on, and my partner Robbie off and on throughout the course of the day. The racing is set to begin around 9 a.m., assuming everything holds up, and we have a total of 70 racers. If I could ask Trey to give you an opportunity, let's take a look at our racers competing today, shall we? For those of you unfamiliar with Rally4Vets, this is the second year that we've run it at Summit Point Raceway. Now, last year's event was so successful and so much fun that we actually ended up doubling our participant pool this year. We have nearly 70 drivers, as you saw. I hope that you saw some of your favorites, and if you know any of them, the relatives and folks, again, be sure to send that share out to those folks in internet land so they'll have the opportunity to join us. I'm looking very forward to some good racing today. Now, it's a beautiful day out here in Summit Point Raceway. I don't know if you know much about racing. On cold days, we get slower times, and on hotter days, we get faster times. The predicted temperature this afternoon is supposed to be about 78 degrees, almost 80. Track temperature should be well above 85 or 90 degrees. So we're looking for some really fast times. There has been one change in the rules in terms of classes. Last year, if you're a veteran of this broadcast, you might have noticed that a Tesla had joined the ranks of the racers. The racing committee has met, and at this point, the Tesla and other electric vehicles are not going to be participating in today's race. Let's be honest. Here's a little explanation. The technology is not quite the same. If you're running an internal combustion engine, a gas engine, and you push your foot down on the pedal, even if you push it all the way to the bottom, it still takes some time for your engine to come up to speed and you get the benefits of all that power. If you're working in a Tesla or any electric vehicle and you push that accelerator pedal to the bottom, 100% of the electrical power is immediately transferred to the drivetrain without the run-up time that an internal combustion engine has. This and a number of other factors that electronic vehicles are different than internal combustion vehicles has led the Rules Committee to decide that EVs this year are not going to be allowed to participate. However, we will be looking at some absolutely wonderful vehicles. I know now we have an opportunity to introduce my partner, Robbie. Robbie, hi.
Scott, thanks for having me.
Yep, he's been out catching on the driver's briefings and taking a look at the cars we're running. Why don't you come on a little closer? I'll move the mic if you need to. Tell us about what kind of cars are we looking at today?
Well, there's a wide range. Like I said, like he just said, Scott said, I was down there for the drivers' meeting, so they were going over the rules package, everything that they're going to be going on the format for today's race. There's a lot of newbies out there today. So
That's surprising.
Well, I was surprised myself. They said, by a show of hands, who's new here? Who's never been out on this race course? It's probably a third of the people out there that have never turned a lap here on the Shenandoah circuit here at Summit Point. So It's going to be fun to watch to see how these guys and girls that are behind the wheel tonight negotiate this relatively challenging course.
Now, you've had a chance to look over the course. Let's bring the course map up, Trey, if we could, so we can have Robbie have an opportunity to look at it as well. And you're an experienced person at motorsports. With this many hairpin turns, and even though they're not 180 turnabouts, you're looking at some pretty serious slowdowns as you're entering those turns.
Absolutely. You have to be focused on your braking points. Your references are going to be a little bit skewed. This is going to be a different type of an event. Normally, what I'm used to is actual competition where there's beating and banging, there's opportunity for passing. Here, it's strictly time alone. So that's another thing that they're going to have to be worried about. Their references are going to be completely off because they're going to be judging based on the car in front of them and behind them. So we might see some people make some mistakes, get off into the grass. There's a couple winding S's through here that's going to give an opportunity for these drivers to make a mistake.
Have you ever run this course yourself?
I never have. I've been on iRacing a few times, but I've never gotten the chance to get out on the track.
I know that a number of the folks that were participating at this track last year had the opportunity of remarking how this is actually a very challenging and surprising track. I noticed from the broadcast booth on camera one that right over here on our left-hand side is you're going along fine, coming out of that on a little straight, and then you lose 2 feet as it goes downhill.
Right.
That little dippity-doo has provided more opportunities that we've been able to see for folks to skid out or end up in the grass, and God forbid, hopefully nothing happens that's a little more serious than that. Don't mind a few skid outs.
No, don't mind. You got to make it exciting here. But also, for the people watching at home, you're going to see different camera angles on this racetrack, and it's going to be very misleading for you guys. Like he just said, there's a little bit of a downhill grade. There's a little bit of an upgrade as well. Going on the uphill, when you hit the brakes, it's going to slow you down faster than what you would if you were on a straight, normal grade. And then going on the downhill, there's going to be some wheel hopping. There's going to be some spinning involved that we're going to see some guys and girls that have the experience here that are going to be able to use that loose race car to their advantage and actually make that change the trajectory on the entry to the corner. That's going to allow them to hit that apex, and that's going to be a great time for them, potentially putting them at the top of the scoring pylon.
Now, right now, the temperature is just coming up on 70 degrees, but we're predicted to get up as high as 78 or 80 in air temperature. Now, track temperature is going to be much better than that. I've always been led to believe that that's going to increase our times, that we're going to get faster times.
It should. You get some rubber down on the racetrack. We're going to see a little bit more grip. One thing that they're not really going to have to worry about today is the hot track conditions. The sun is going to be beating on this racetrack. It's going to make it a little bit more slick. But as these cars are running around this racetrack, developing that racing line, it's going to be very fast. It's going to be very grippy. But there's one thing to keep in mind with that. That is a razor's edge. You get some rubber built up below from people overshooting the corner. There's marbles that are out there, and we'll even see some dirt get kicked up onto the racetrack as well, which is also going to mitigate how these drivers approach the corner themselves.
And that would probably affect more of the novices than the experienced.
Oh yeah, 100%. I know there's a couple people down there that have never done any sort of track work at all. So this is a nice place for them to get oriented with how this setup actually works. I'm so excited to see how things are going to get rolling along here. They're about to go out on track here relatively soon.
Yeah, we've been noticing the activity in pit row, and I've already commented to our audience, but I'll make the same comment to you. I find this the most interesting because it's a race for veterans, run by veterans and their families. And I love that they have so many novice folks out there. It's probably one of the most inclusive events that if you ever have an opportunity, maybe you wanted to look at racing before, maybe you wanted to get on a track. It's certainly an opportunity for you to get involved in probably one of the best causes that you could. Again, we're sponsored by the Disabled Veterans Empowerment Network. And you can take a moment of your time and visit any of the ways that you have the opportunity to donate. There is no donation too small. But I'll also say, for those of you listening, there's no donation too large either. So that being done, the experienced racers are the ones that are probably going to be, obviously, early favorites to claim top dog. Does anybody stand out?
Not so much that I've found so far. I'm not from around here or anything, so I'm still getting situated, learning who are the juggernauts of the series and who's actually going to be at the top of the charts by the time this is all said and done. But the thing is, and every time you go to one of these events, there's always a dark horse. There's always someone in here that's going to surprise you. Someone that just has that natural gift. The racecraft is just deep in their DNA. And I think that we're going to see some drivers that haven't been out on the race course yet, but they're smart. They're going to be extremely focused. This is going to be their time to shine. This might be their first time out on the racetrack, and they've got something to prove, you know. So I'm looking forward to seeing one of the people that nobody's ever heard of. Nobody's ever been out on this racetrack that's going to put their piece up at the top.
You know, and that's the thing that we're really looking forward to. Did I just hear a racer head out on the track?
It sounded like there was something going.
Yeah, maybe it's just the pace car checking the track for obstructions or anything. Nope, they're going. I hear an engine. Yeah, it's race day.
It's about time.
Oh my gosh, I can't tell you. We have fun in the booth. Don't get me wrong, we do, because we have the best view and we got all the cool cameras and stuff. But there is nothing quite like the thrill of a race day. Hearing that engine go off. Although this has to be the weirdest pit row I've ever walked down. Normally you're walking down a pit row and everybody is confident. Yeah, I'm going to give it out there, give it a go for the win, give it a good shot. These are the most humble people I've ever heard of. You know, well, I just hope I don't crash.
Yeah, I was about to say that. Do you think that there's a little bit of intimidation involved with that?
I think that because of veterans' natural inclination towards service, that they don't wish to take any individual credit, but they'd rather focus it on the team, because it's always going to be a team win. No matter who wins today here at Top Dog, as long as you're watching, if you give a couple of dollars or anything that you can, it's a win. We're happy to do this. We do this on the internet versus any other method so that we have the opportunity, one, of bringing it to you cost effectively, but two, reaching as many of you at home as we possibly can. Now, as the race action begins today, don't forget to hit the share button, especially if one of your favorite drivers is going to be coming up. So I think we ought to take one more second to look at the drivers before we start actually getting the racing. And we've got quite a few of them.
Yeah, quite a few. Yeah, here's the list that I'm looking forward to. Brandon Kiker, Caleb Bailey, Robert Barber. These guys, no experience whatsoever.
Not necessarily. A couple of them have run the track once or twice. Monique
Okay.
Hess is one of those that I look forward to come out and have a breakout, but it's so hard to remember where their skill level was. Now, Monique's my cousin. I remember her and how she drives. She's a maniac on that course, so I'm looking personally for her to go out there and set some kind of record. But there's Christopher in a gray BMW that I met down there, and he looks like he's going to have a heck of a race. His dad's part of his support crew. His dad was the vet, and my gosh, what an interesting fellow to meet. If you get an opportunity and you are coming up to the race, please take time to go down the parade row, the show row, and talk to these folks. You just are going to get some fantastic stories.
Yeah, very genuine people out there. And as I was walking around earlier, just trying to get familiar with the people that are out on the racetrack, everybody is so excited for this event. Just the mission that's involved here. All the donations, as far as I understand, are going to a service dog.
Yes.
Would you mind sharing a little bit about that service dog?
I have actually not been briefed about that.
Okay, me neither. That's why I sent it to you.
We're going to steal our thunder. If we do that, then we're the guest that's supposed to be here to explain that.
Okay.
You know? One of the great things about being a host is they tell you, you're supposed to be an idiot. if you knew everything, then why would you need the guests?
Right.
And I'm like, cool, I'm an idiot. I'm pretty good at this.
Yeah, you got two of them sitting right here. We're good to go.
And that's pretty much the first few minutes of what we've got going on here. I need to quickly reposition one camera, and I want to make sure when they're actually getting folks out on the track. So we'll take a quick pause, and we'll come back here in just a few minutes. He's Robbie. I'm Scott. Don't go away. Hello and welcome back. All right, I know we're ready.
Absolutely. Cars rolling.
Oh, a good full and clean out of the pit. Excellent. That's really nice. Everybody looks like they got a good start. And for those of you sitting at home, you'll have the opportunity to start seeing them coming through in the upper right camera as they're beginning.
Slow. They're not going to be revving their engines or anything like that. So if you guys are ready for racing, it's going to be just a little bit more of a...
I'm seeing a number of BMWs, a couple of Porsches, I don't know if that's a Hyundai. That's kind of brave, bringing a Hyundai to a rally race.
Hey, why not?
It's only against the club veterans, and it was basically a group of guys who had their own cars that they wanted to put together, and now it has grown to this. So if you're sitting at home and you're thinking, I really wish I could get a chance to do this, go to DVEN and give yourself a chance to look at how you might be able to qualify and participate in next year's race. In fact, the participation has grown so much this year, Robbie. I understand they're talking about making it
It's all about your willpower. And you know, track cross like this where you're facing a time trial, you can really develop that confidence to carry you over to actually compete against live racers that are door to door, wheel to wheel with you. So if you guys are interested in joining, like he just said, there's a bunch of resources out there to you for actually participating in next year's event, which from what you just said, a 2-day event would be awesome.
Oh my gosh, 2 days of racing, and let me yourself do a little bit of racing. You mentioned that you do iRacing. What's the difference between that and this?
Well, obviously, iRacing is the premier sim racing platform. Everybody, as far as NASCAR, Formula One, IMSA drivers, they all compete wherever. They all conglomerate in the asphalt media events, and I get to commentate and broadcast those races to the world. And it's by having my guys and girls that compete with us. We put on a couple races at Summit Point just so I could get an idea of what I'm even going to be looking at. And I got to tell you, I think it really helped.
Be 11, you can be 70, you can do everything in iRacing, and because that's the appeal of motorsports. What if you were actually behind the wheel and you had the chance to go 100 miles an hour or more around a track? We all want to test our skills that way because we all want to. I mean, come on, when you got your driver's license, right? We were all the people. Don't just appreciate the beauty of the cars. Don't just appreciate the skill of the drivers or the difficulty of the track. Take for a moment and imagine the fact that they're actually endangering themselves just that little bit for all of our entertainment, because by golly, they do make it good. Looks like they finished up the parade lap. So we'll also have the opportunity to bring you some of the folks who make the sights and sounds here at this Rally4Vets, so important. We're hoping to have an opportunity to talk to the president of the Summit Point Raceway. He graced us last year with an interview. I'm hoping he'll swing by again today. We'd also love to get Colonel Hess, the head of the DV.
They're waiting to get rolling out on the racetrack. They're going to be going out by themselves. There's going to be an interval between them. So
51st has to be obviously the rule of the day. It certainly is not going to decrease in any of the action. Slow run last year, which has been excluded. Electric vehicles are no longer allowed to compete against internal combustion on this track. Hopefully they'll have their own E-Class next year.
That would be nice. I feel like it's kind of an unfair advantage.
In what way?
Well, for me, have you ever ridden in a Tesla before?
Oh, yes.
Okay, so you know how the insane mode goes. They fire off better than most combustion engines that I've ever ridden in. I mean, it literally puts you in your seat. Extremely forceful. But I don't know if that would really help them through all the corners that we have here. The elevation game, we can see one right here through our window. Is that an actual portion of the course?
We're here to pit row. So when they come over that hill at speed, we'll see some airborne action.
Right there especially. I wish we could show you on the stream, but there is a big... It's almost...
Yes, Trey's nodding at me that we have adequate coverage, and it looks...
Opportunities for these competitors to get creative with how they exit the corner. This one in particular that we're looking at over here that we're seeing, is that an SUV?
It is. It's a BMW SUV.
Oh my gosh. That one's going to get airborne. If any of them are going to get on his side, get on two wheels out there. Hopefully these guys stay safe. But as you mentioned earlier, this is a danger that are driving out here don't have the experience that some others do. But it's a dangerous sport, and there's also a lot of corners on this racetrack where you get your left sides or your right sides on the grass, it is like ice, and it will carry you, it will suck you up into the wall, and that could potentially be a pretty dangerous thing.
That's really not what I'm worried about. What I'm looking forward to is seeing how these drivers. So Porsche's got its main chances in the shifts and in the turns. Now, will the driver be smart enough to take advantage of that?
Right.
We'll have to see. But it's certainly one of those things that we're just thrilled to be part of. Experienced driver, it's going to be one of
That's the key, though. You have to know how to use it.
And that's one of the things that I'm thinking. One position.
Yeah, right now, just watching these cars, it's basically the best day that I've ever seen at a racetrack. Clear sky, no cloud cover whatsoever. The sun is shining, and it's basically sunny and 75, which is all you can ask for here at Summit Point Motorsports Park. Looks like we got one. He's able to get it rolling. We're good to go.
Trying to turn around. So now you probably won't notice much in camera 2, but you'll notice if you can look in the distance a bit, you'll see the straightaway with the dipsy-do that we're talking about. And especially if the car decides that it's going to put on some. Let's go ahead and take a second, and can we run the drivers again just so they have an opportunity to pick out which one if they know one. There's another one of those beautiful Porsches making its curve around.
I mean, you could even tell just from what we're looking at on the eggs of the corner, just so much better getting off. He was able to get back to the throttle faster than what that Mustang was able to.
And that's going to be the tail of the tape as it goes around. Now, we'll be able to point to bring up that donation screen again, since we have the opportunity. And of course, you have the opportunity, if you're one of those people that is currently 21st century, you can hit the little scan code there with your scanner. Or if you're a 20th century person like me, you want to go to the website, that would be www.rally4vets.com. Or there's an address and a phone number on there if you prefer to just send a check.
Just open up your camera, point it at the screen, and it will take you directly to the link that my friend Scott here just pointed out.
Yeah.
My first car was a Mustang.
Oh, mine was actually a 1973 AMC Hornet. Love that car. With a V6. Oh my God, I loved working on that thing. It was indestructible.
Yeah, my Mustang was not. I had one of the V6s. It had dents all over it. It was just, my dad spent $1,000 on it. Love him for it, but.
Yep.
You know.
And it's always, those cars are the things, some of them that you recall. Looks like we just lost one. It's going to happen now and again. Sorry to do that, folks. It's live broadcast. My second car, I think, was my favorite, though, of the cars that I bought still in my teenage years. I had a 1976 Subaru DL. Four-wheel, wagon, but, you know, a luggage rack on the top. I looked like I was already a middle-aged man. But it came with a spare engine.
A spare engine?
Yes, when I bought it, they had already retooled one engine, so they kept the original engine in oil. So when I burned out the first engine, I just dropped the second one in there.
Hey, that's a deal and a half, man.
That's what I thought, too.
Oh, man.
Yup, there goes that Camaro again, making noise, coming around.
That's an interesting corner, too. I don't know. On that hard right-hander that they have at the top of this hill here, it looks like they're not as swinging as wide as what I anticipated. Maybe there's something on the other side of this hill that I just can't see. Maybe they're setting up another corner.
Let's take a second and bring up the track and let's take a look at it so that we can give the audience at home a sample of what you're talking about. So for those of you that are wondering, let me orient you on the track. The red line at the bottom of the screen is where Robbie and I are. We're sitting here on pit row. To the right of the screen, following the arrows, is how the action is currently going. What Robbie's talking about is coming off that straightaway. You'll notice coming out of pit road, that's that first turn and then down the straight. As they're coming back and returning into that 180-degree turnaround is that dipsy doodle that we've been discussing. Right as it just before the turnaround. So it's been interesting to see how they've been handling it.
But one thing's for certain is these experienced drivers, they all have their own flavor on things. Like nobody's hitting the corner the same way.
No, and I've noticed we've gotten some folks, we can go ahead and kill the track now. I've noticed we've got some folks that are taking the inside line where others are just trying to ride to the middle. And if I understand racing correctly, and I'm no racer, but you want to make just basically be driving a straight line if you could.
If you could, yeah. The apex is the most important thing. At a road course, you want to hit that. Sometimes you miss the apex, you get inside your own head. It's almost like a field goal kicker that misses the big moment, the game-winning kick, and you shank it to the left. You missed one set of corners, you're in your head, and you're not going to be able to hit the next one, and then the next one, and the next one. And sometimes it takes you 2 or 3 laps just to get...
I could sit in a chair and drive a car. Really? Try it 120 miles an hour where
Right.
all of a sudden you're skidding 30 degrees to the right.
Right.
That'll mess with your mind. So their mental focus has to be absolute.
Yeah, and you see, you drive your car to work every day. You got your daily driver. Sometimes people are driving 90 minutes both ways going to work, and everybody does it, so it makes it look like you said, I could get out there and do that. How hard is you just hitting some pedals and turning the steering wheel?
Well, with NASCAR, it's all turning left. I could just hold my arm like this, right? I'm not I'm not on NASCAR. I was just saying, if you're a humyuck like me at home, it all looks easy. I can hang my arm out the window and drink a beer doing it.
Yeah, seriously. No, it takes a lot of skill to be able to do this, and today we're seeing it on full display. Oh, we had one car get a little bit loose there on the entry there. Got a little sideways.
Nice.
So already testing the limits here.
Now, is that the track heating up?
You know what? There's a mixture of that. It could either be the track or the tire temps are now getting built up, so there's less surface area for the tires to make contact because they're just a little bit fuller. So as the run goes along, you're going to see cars make adjustments, maybe not mechanically, but inside your own head. You're going to have to approach corners differently because the way your car started at the beginning of the run is not going to be the same way 2 laps into the run, and it's for sure not going to be the same at the end of the run.
I'm old and I've got bad hips, but we're hoping Robbie's going to get a chance to get in one and bring you some, and I know we've got a little bit of drone footage that's being taken by Paul Behrens, an outstanding operator of the drone, so that we can also get you some drone footage and in-camera, in-car, on-track footage. So that you at home might have the opportunity to experience the track at its full-out craziness. Her screaming for one thing, and then the shaking and the earthquake because she was so excited about being tossed around in the car. So we're looking forward to having some folks who actually know how to run an in-car camera bring us some footage.
Yeah, I'm excited to post a lap out there. I don't care how fast.
That's about probably 15% coming off that corner.
That's big. And if you're here in West Virginia, you've been on the West Virginia Turnpike, you got like a 3% grade, 4%, 5% going down the hills, up the hills. Imagine flying through there, hitting your braking points, focusing on the entry to the corner, and then having to deal with basically a roller coaster up and trying to make that left-hander right there.
We had one driver describe it last year as like you're trying to walk into your kitchen at night and all of a sudden the floor is 3 feet lower than you had expected it to be. That is a significant amount of angle. And you can see the Camaro took it a lot more cautiously that time.
Yep.
They approached the turn, made the turn, and then accelerated rather than accelerating into the turn.
Well, able to get off at the corner, mash the gas, foot to the floor all the way. But since you have that little bit of a dip there, your tires want to leave the ground. So if you hit it too hard, you get some wheel spin, I guarantee you, if anybody goes around, it's going to be at that corner right there because of that. And I'm guessing it's probably going to be one of the guys or girls that doesn't have the experience.
And that's why Trey, our engineer behind the camera, has insisted that we point the camera right at that spot because that has happened before. And we're looking forward to seeing at least how
wide
we got one
right
into
there.
the grass there, almost. That's going to haunt you in the lap, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah, right on cue.
Now, is that one of those things that you're sitting there thinking to yourself while you're driving? There's so much stimulation. Do you really have time to think about missing a curve like that?
See, that's the thing. You miss the corner, and then you're thinking about it. You can't. There's so much more going on for the end of the lap. You have so many corners. You don't have much time on the exit of that corner to think. You have to set up for the next one. So you're in your head. You get in the grass there. You have to shake it off immediately, and sometimes you're not. Oh yeah.
So if you've made a move like that, if you've gone wide on a turn and you're already trapped inside your head and the world is coming at you at 80 to 100 miles an hour and you're in that little space, that is a very small space.
Right. Also, You don't have to hook up to a Hans device in these cars, which limits the mobility to the left and the right. You don't have much yaw with your head, but there is a little bit of visibility. Your periphery is not as keen as what it would be if you had, let's say, an open face helmet or you weren't wearing a helmet at all. So that could have to 30, 35 miles per hour.
Yep, and I believe it was a blue BMW. I think they were trying to take it way over that speed. They'll be making another round here in just a second, I think. But yeah, it certainly was an intense moment. And I can't imagine what the emotion you must feel in that split second when you realize that you're over the curve.
Well, that's what separates the good from the bad, or the good from the, inexperienced. Can you shake it off? Can you just let that roll off your shoulders?
There's that beautiful song of American Muscle. Love that sound. Alrighty. Well, that I think has given us our good first segment and a great way to start the show. We don't want to overtax you with just us being boring, sitting here looking out a window and chatting to each other as if we didn't know what we were talking about. We'd rather bring you our expert commentary. So we're going to take just about a 10-minute break here, about 10, 15 minutes, so we'll find somebody to talk to, as well as get a quick update from the live scorers as to how things are going. Thanks very much. I'm Scott, he's Robbie, and we'll be back in just a few minutes.
All right, we're back after a brief intermission here. Got to talk to some of the drivers that are anticipating waiting to go out on track now. I did get a chance to walk around the racetrack and, more importantly, take a look at, let's see, what camera is on. The middle low one, the camera in the direct center on the bottom. That is where they start. So if you look on one of these cars that's going to fire off here, you'll see an immediate
A chance to tighten up some of the cameras, and we're you can see probably in the camera one, the one to our immediate left, if you're looking in your top right corner of the screen, it's now got a much better focus on that hairpin turn. Thank you, Trey. We all appreciate it. Everyone were on it at the time. And then we had one person in a Porsche. I know that was my early call.
Yeah.
Take a little bit on the corner a little better. And that had to have cost some time.
Oh yeah, and it's probably going to cost some time for a couple laps. Backing up the corner, that probably costs him a little bit of time as well. But I think in a couple laps here, if he can get back to a competition where passing would be involved. Sometimes you'll hear broadcasters, commentators, announcers say, you got to race the track, not the competitors. This is the only thing you're racing out here is yourself and the track itself. You don't have to worry about the obstacles of the other drivers around you. You are racing the track as best as you can, and it looks like we are seeing some drivers that are figuring it out. They're running some pretty fast times.
But here's what I worry about. Now, one of my other favorite sports that I love is horse racing.
Okay.
And one of the things you do, and if you know anything about horse racing, is a one horse racing by itself. Don't do it, for one thing. But also, they get a little slower because there's nobody pushing them on the time.
Right.
And it's all about, again, that mental space in their own head. How aggressive can they be against their own time?
Right.
How much do you think they're feeling that right now as conditions are beginning to heat up?
Well, see, that's something, autocross and things like this, time trial events, is something I don't have too much experience with. When you're racing other people, you can use the competitors as that carrot being dangled in front of you, like you can get aggressive into the corners. You can see how the person in front of you is making the entry to the corner, so you can adjust around that and, add some aggression, a later braking zone than what the guy around you does. But here, you do not have those references. It's rhythm, it's pacing, it's and you don't have much time to do it.
So let's take that example where you've got that guy that just took the grass, all right?
Yep.
And he's still maybe gotten around, he's back around to it. We watched him back up off of it. So now he's losing a little time, but he's making the curve successfully.
Yes.
Is there an adjustment on the other end once you've come off that curve that you can make up time on? I mean, this is a tough track.
This is a tough track, but this being a military event, really get that car to rotate, and they're actually dirt tracking it a little bit by turn.
I was also out talking to the drivers. One of them said that his strategy for today was to not drive it as fast as he can, but to drive it.
Like the precision that's involved with trying to post the fastest lap time, because your references are completely off, your braking zones are going to be
launch off on the clockwise run out of pit row is a slow launch. And then you're into the two turns and the straightaway. So I'm thinking that the driver's probably going to want to try and get aggressive at the start of that and hold for the 180 degree hairpin any kind of more significant braking. Do you feel that they might go more aggressively than that or less?
Well, if you wouldn't mind, could you pull up the track map real quick? I want to show everybody at fault until at the very last second you're able to.
You're speaking of the carousel being that turn in the center top portion of the screen. It's kind of a nice, long, lazy left.
Yes.
And I can see how that would be deceiving because it looks just kind of like a simple left turn.
Right.
That you could even keep speed going into. You could trade track position inside to outside so that you could keep speed up. But the size of that curve is humongous. And you're right, it is so gentle, but it's almost a full hairpin.
Basically, if anybody watching at home, I want you to take away this. This is a really cool racetrack, and you should come out and you should get the opportunity to watch these cars race, whether it's...
Bring that down and we'll return to regular action then, because we've got some folks that are out on the track. Now here we have Colonel Hess running in the Disabled Veterans Empowerment Network when they have the opportunity. No, I'm not going to bring the donation screen up yet. I'll give you another break before we go to the next segment. But remember, when it does come up, that's your chance to join in both the fun and helping us out in such a worthy cause. Now, a Corvette, that's a different kind of muscle car than even a Camaro.
I have no experience with Chevy. to be honest with you. So
Yeah.
I think that you're the subject matter expert on that one.
Okay, well, this is where I had fraternity brothers in college who had muscle cars, and they loved to take me, who's not a muscle car guy, out and just impress me with it. You were talking earlier about the electric vehicle, the Tesla,
Sure.
how it's just all go.
Sure.
The only equivalent I could give you to that is I had a friend of mine who owned a 67 GTO. He'd put a $100 bill on the dashboard. If you could catch it before it hit the ground, after when he hit the accelerator, then line. Camaro's a nice, good, solid, straight line performance car, but it's low center of gravity, and everything being right over top of the wheels themselves gives it good curve performance. Not true for the Corvette. Corvette's much looser. Everything's front engine heavy with almost nothing in the rear. So I think that as you're approaching a serious turn, that's probably going to be something different from the Corvette to the Camaro.
Is it a rough ride in the Corvette?
In my experience, it has been, but of course,
That's what I've heard.
those that are folks that are Corvette owners may feel differently because they certainly do love them.
I mean, rightfully so. It's a beautiful car, got a lot of horsepower in it, and I'm sure it's so much fun to drive. I've just never gotten the opportunity.
I've only had the opportunity to be a passenger, you know, but that's okay. It's still a pleasure to be in one. And that's the one thing that's fun about classic cars, is that even if you get the opportunity just to ride in one, in 20 years, that won't occur.
Yeah.
You know, you'll see them only in museums.
Yeah, my father has a 1969 Ford Galaxy that he's just got, and he's restoring it. It was his first car that he ever had, and he's getting older, so he's like, I might as well go out with the bang, you know.
Yeah.
So he bought himself. Today we have cars that run completely on computers.
Nowadays, everything is tiny, but of course, it's also much higher performance in so many ways. And that's one of the things that is interesting about how technology improves racing. You know, it all gets driven by the things that we require to make ourselves better drivers.
Right.
It may seem silly as we sit here and talk about a driver taking an outside curve or maybe braking too much as they're coming in, but you experience those same things on the street. Racing is just bringing those items in and fast forward.
Yeah, it's completely focused at the most chaotic that it can be. But I don't think we have any cars that are in the field today that...
I've not seen it yet get out on the track nor get outfitted with a number. But yeah, I would sure be interested to see some of the older cars that would have an opportunity to run on a track like this and see how well they do. Like this.
Yeah, I agree. And the turning radius on some of those things are...
Oh, come on.
It takes a while.
It's a 16-point turn. It's fine. Race for classic cars, or I'd like the opportunity to get involved, or anything like that. Go on over to www.Rally4Vets.com, and you have the opportunity to interact with the great folks from the Disabled Veterans Empowerment Network. It's best that we just concentrate on the needs here at home and remember with honor their service abroad. If you are that veteran and you are struggling, take about 60 seconds. We remember those that came before us because they're the reason we're here today. And that's one of my favorite things about the Rally for Vets.
Hole in you the size of, it feels like you. It feels like there's something missing. And you take every opportunity that you can get to just poke at the bear, you know? And being out here on the racetrack, going at, I mean, they're probably going, what, $130 into one of these corners.
On the good straights, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, you best believe there's some poking at the bear going on inside their head when you're entering a hard right hand or breaking it down, downshifting. So it's fun to kind of see that side of the veteran open back up. There's a lot of people, they closet that, you know, that mindset that they had they were bred into when they were indoctrinated into when they went into the military, and to see them actually be able to get it back out again, it can get scary, but I think that these guys are using it for a positive here.
It's the funniest thing that I've had it described to me is that when you're in service, it's all about service. You're part of that team, and you described it the same thing I've heard over and over again. It feels like a U-sized hole because you don't know what to be when you're not being asked to serve.
Right.
When you're not on mission, when you're not preparing for or after mission. And something like this gives folks, regular folks as well as veterans, just a chance to be. And we as human beings forget that that's the most important thing. We're humans being.
Right.
And this being involved in a race or being involved in a booth, even like you and I, is the reason that we're all here. And it's the part that we forget as we focus on these things too much. But now I can hear the engines are getting definitely more excited. We've got some of the higher end performance cars coming around. Okay, not the Toyota, not the Toyota that's currently on. That's the pace car.
What's wrong with a Toyota?
Nothing's wrong with a Toyota. I just wanted to let the folks at home know that's the pace car that's currently out there.
I cannot wait to get out there.
I'm sure you can. I can't wait to root you on from here. Do you know what car you'll be driving?
A Mazda.
Ooh.
I'm not going to be driving. I'm going to be riding on board.
Okay, good enough.
So
And
I'm fine with that.
You'll be carrying a camera and screaming for the folks at home. I love
You
it.
ain't kidding.
Perfect.
Hopefully a little bit more footage than last year.
As you can see, everybody's kind of getting a good opportunity to familiarize themselves. I don't.
And it is a gift. It is a gift.
And there's one start from zero.
Right. Is that the order they're going to be going in there?
That is the order from
Okay.
what I understand that they will be running in. So if you've seen them on the track and you know the car and the driver, that's how you have the opportunity to root. But this is where we're going to see, I think our times, overall speeds are probably going to be a little bit less. These are novice drivers. But I think our opportunity to see quote unquote racing action might be actually increased because they're novice drivers.
Right. I think we're going to see a lot of mistakes, but you know, at this point, there's a little bit of rubber that's laid down in the racetrack, which is going to give you a little bit more grip. So even though they are novices, there might be some surprises in this field.
Well, this is where you and I both expected that the surprises might come.
Right.
Because the experienced folks, they've had their runs. I mean, you're talking, if they've run this race more than twice, then they certainly probably are talking about tenths of seconds improvements or losses, whereas a novice driver is going to see full second changes.
Yeah. Yep.
And which branch of the service were you in?
I was a Navy corpsman. I was a Navy medical.
Outstanding, making sure the boys get home alive.
Sometimes they'd make sure I get home alive.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where were you stationed?
Camp Lejeune, North Carolina is where I did my garrison work, and then when I deployed, I was with the Marine Expeditionary Unit, the LPD-17 USS San Antonio. Rooting for Nuck, whoever for you.
I'm going to find out who Nuck is so that when he's on the track, we'll be able to know.
Yeah.
I mean, Tipo deserves a shout out.
Tipo, yeah, there you go. Thanks for commenting, Tipo.
Please feel free, because that way we'll have the opportunity to know what it is that you here at home would really want to see from us. We're doing our best to bring you the coverage as we are able. It being a live event, we don't always know what's going on, so every now and again we have to take a break and find out. And I think this might be an opportune moment to do so.
This might be.
So, Bobby, I'm Scott. We'll see you in about 10.